the title said Part 1, that means there's at least a Part 2.
We can't allow that to happen.
Call the accountant.
Helicopter, helicopter. Helicopter, helicopter.
16 hours earlier.
That's why I spent
$522 million.
on this burnt and twisted lump of
90s nostalgia.
because it reminds me of what really matters. This is the true heart of
Power Rangers.
boy. This is my religion. You don't know how many times I've seen that same cow-eyed, say-it-isn't-so look of disbelief. Every
SPD fan.
looks exactly as you do now. I won't bother proving it to you. Are you ready to make more money in 1 year than
Jason David Frank.
I made in his whole life? Are you ready to become a real
Power Ranger reviewer.
then sign that contract?
Dude, it was just a 10-minute video. Right now. Probably. Maybe. Damn. I didn't think they'd be able to find me all the way up here at the Arctic base. I'm here for the whole ride, okay? I'm not a big fan of the robots. I'm not a big fan of the goofy toys, but that's fine. I understand why they exist. They're okay. They look cool sometimes. I mainly like the conflicts that the characters get into, especially when it comes to the Power Rangers adaptations during the Saban and Disney era, because they really tried to advance things a little bit beyond into the American realm. They added that sort of European fantasy to a lot of the early Mighty Morphin, Zeo, and Turbo series, because, of course, with O-Ranger and Car Ranger, those were very isolated stories, and we were trying to weave this mythology about these 5 teenagers with attitude being endowed with powers by a floating head in the tube, going on in life, like getting older, and how it would be if they graduated high school and were still Power Rangering, you know? And that was a valiant effort, honestly, but it really wasn't necessary. Anyway, this is Zyuohger, okay? This is Zyuohger. I forgot to breathe for a minute there. This is Zyuohger. And so the big problem with Zyuohger, I'm trying to say it right. I'm probably getting it horribly wrong. You could help me in the chat if you know how it's pronounced. But the big problem with Zyuohger, it's annoying how I say it. Anyway, the big problem with this one is that in theory, Hasbro couldn't figure out how to overcome the Minecraft look. This was a theory. Simon never said anything about this. Hasbro never said anything about this. Nobody in development ever said anything about this. In fact, they never brought this one up. They just kind of glossed over it. Simon replied to a question about it saying, I can't speak to that right now or at all, you know? So obviously they were planning on using some part of it, but eventually that just worked its way out. So again, the theory is that this was too close to Minecraft, and so they didn't want to evoke that. The biggest problem with that is that they didn't really have to worry about that. They just needed a little bit more vision, okay? They needed a bit more vision. Because again, Simon didn't want to comment on whether or not this was being brought over, so there is no official word. I want to stress that. What you just heard has been theory that I've seen on Ranger Board and around on Twitter, okay? That's it. All right? There's nobody at a convention that even whispered this stuff. It's simply online gossip, circle, what if kind of stuff, okay? It just makes the most sense to me that they were afraid of the wrath of Microsoft. So my theory on fixing this was turn it into an isekai. So I created Power Rangers Primal Drive. And so Primal Drive is, you know, pretty simple on its face because it's an isekai story. What happened is you had a teenager, his name is Ryder Vance. And so what happened with him is that his parents were developing a video game, one of those, you know, immersive style video games. And what they had done is basically, if you remember in Tron, Flynn had scanned himself into the grid. And in Tron Legacy, his son went after him. Okay. And so this borrows from that setting. Okay. So what happens is that Ryder puts on the headset that, sucked his parents' consciousness in. So while they were experimenting on their game called Jungle Champions, I'm sorry, I don't want to make something that sounds real because then it'll be more interesting than the show name. And I figured if the game was named Primal Drive and the show was named Primal Drive, it would just be way too close. So the Jungle Champions game headset, it scans your consciousness. And unfortunately, that steals it. It's a dot hack thing, if you remember dot hack. And so I decided that's how that happened for him, is that in a quest to figure out what happened to his parents, he ends up joining them inside of the game. But inside the game, there is an enemy AI that has overgrown its purpose, okay? And so this enemy AI is corrupting the world, trying to destroy Ryder's parents' consciousnesses that are trapped within the code itself. They didn't make it into full body form the way Ryder did. For whatever reason, okay? I didn't make it that far in the plot progression of why it didn't happen the same to him, whatever. There was a time when the SPD Omega Ranger was just a floating ball of light because they couldn't figure out how to schedule the actor in to play him, okay? Come on. But anyway, Ryder ends up attracting these other people around him that are the guardians of the source code. So the parents built this in order to make sure that the AI wouldn't get crazy because they figured having an AI running the villains of the game, it would eventually go crazy. Errors, right? So these four other people were given the special coding to be able to fight back. Unfortunately, they needed a fifth, and that one ended up dying, okay, the red guy. And that's where Ryder comes in, is he ends up filling that gap and so much more. He evolves, right, levels up, okay? And all you have to do is just run video game noise and put some video game graphics over things every now and then. Every now and then, not all the time, okay? So you've successfully taken Zyuohger's story of trying to save the animals, and you've moved it over into trying to save a video game. Very simple, very easy. And I even made a theme song for this. Because again, it's not difficult. This is not anything that's hard, okay? Because I tried to advance this up for 8 to 14-year-olds, okay? So here we go.
Deep in the code of fire awakes. The world is shifting, nothing's safe. Lines are breaking, rules undone. But primal hearts refuse to run. Power Rangers, Primal Drive, based awaken, we survive. Light and shadow side by side, fight to win with Primal Drive.
Okay, it's not that hard. It's not that hard, Simon. It's really not that hard, okay? Now, I know I have AI on my side that I could just scoop this up, and you guys didn't have it back then, but you also had a multi-million-dollar operation with multiple contacts in the musical industry that at any point you could just jangle a little bit of a bell there and be like, hey, bud, you got any neat tunes you want to attach Power Rangers to? And I'm sure somebody had a neato backing track that they were trying to write lyrics for that Power Rangers would have fit really nicely into. It's not that hard, guys. It's not, it's just difficult for people who want to be counterculture with it, who want to break it down into things, deconstruct the concept of a person with no superpowers, usually no superpowers, saving the day. It's too much for these guys. And so they don't bother. They give up. They're like, this is too difficult. This looks too much like Minecraft. This is too Microsofty. We'll get sued. Well, here's a neat way to explain it. So the machines and the weaponry look like, 8-bit characters, okay? Because I showed you. Remember, we'll go back and we'll take a look at the mecha. It's right over here. Again, like I showed you, these mecha look like, they're made out of Minecraft stuff. Well, they also, because if they're looking like Minecraft stuff, they're going to look like 8-bit art as well, okay? So it's very easy to make a video game that looks like this sort of 3D, almost cubicle world, sort of like back with Samus Aran in the original Metroid. You have these weapons and machines that are not natural to the world, okay? And that's how you explain why the weapons and the mecha have this very blocky 8-bit art look to them. And it's because they are not natural to the world. The parents of Ryder coded them into this game on top of the world code. And so it looks different. And meanwhile, when you are inside the game, the world looks like the real world. So you don't have to goof around with making all these crazy sets. You don't have to goof around with all this Unreal Engine using, Disney's volume to create super cool backgrounds. You just kind of need a few Hollywood sets that look like a jungle occasionally. And I'm sure you can find those in California still or wherever the hell you're going to film it. It's not that hard. You just have to look beyond the immediate impression that you have. And then you could say, oh, wait, I was wrong. It doesn't look like Minecraft because Minecraft looks like 8-bit art. So we just back it up to being a retro game. And of course, retro games are popular. So why wouldn't somebody try to make an immersive RPG with these old style games, graphics, excuse me, with these old style graphics? It just boggles my mind why nobody in the Power Rangers writer room could just work out that it's a video game. That you could just make it into Primal Drive and it's a video game and everybody looks like real life because that's how they see themselves. It's one line of dialogue where the character Red Ranger looks at his hands and goes, "How come I don't look like a video game character?" And then they answer and they say, "Well, why would a video game character look like a video game character to a video game character? You wouldn't know." And then everybody goes, "Damn, I understand now. Whoa, my brain has exploded." No, it's too hard for the Power Ranger writers because that would involve some concentration. Oh, yeah. That's that Gatorade right there. That's that blue stuff. You know, the blue Gatorade is much more hydrating because it's blue, like water.